Hello learners, I welcome you all to the 59th lecture for the course on International Investment Law and the Environment. So in this lecture, we are going to look at Multilateral Investment Code. Do we have a Multilateral Investment Code? As of now, no. But will we have it in the future? Maybe yes or maybe no. Right, so currently there are certain proposals for establishing a Multilateral Investment Code. Where does this proposal come from? This comes from European Union. So European Union has been looking at the possibility of having a multilateral investment code, and this is not going to be an appellate mechanism. Please pay attention. They have envisaged not just an appellate mechanism, but European Union wants to shift away from the traditional ISDS, wherein they want multilateral investment code to act as a first instance tribunal as well as an appellate tribunal. So they want this to be a replacement for ISDS itself, and then provide for an appellate mechanism as well, including an appellate mechanism as well. So that has been the European Union's idea, and this is something we can also see in its negotiations with Canada, in its negotiations with Vietnam, in its negotiation with Singapore. There's a reference to future MIC. So they're probably pushing for an MIC, Multilateral Investment Code. So their concept of Multilateral Investment Code is a shift away from the traditional ISDS, and there'll be first instance tribunal, and there'll be an appellate mechanism, and it will be there will be qualified and expert judges who will hear the investment dispute, and these judges will have a strict code of ethical conduct. They will be subject to a strict code of ethical conduct, and what MIC had proposed was, so when there are judges who hear the first instance and second instance, they thought that it will also include issues of public health and environmental importance as well within the field of international law itself. So that is what they have looked at, and then EU has proposed for an MIC to have a dedicated secretariat as well, and this dedicated secretariat will support the functioning of the court, the Multilateral Investment Code. So basically there are some bilateral investment code that is being that EU has sort of envisaged in some of the treaties that it had signed. So certain provisions or certain concepts are drawn from these into establishing a multilateral investment code. Some of the concepts from the domestic adjudication and international adjudication are also present in this. So EU's commitment to MIC is very strong, because EU had, in fact, in 2014 asked for public consultation for the concept of multilateral investment code. Then in 2015 it released a concept paper. And then we could see that 2016 the European Commission had commenced an impact assessment process for options on establishing a multilateral investment code. And then we could also see in 2018 the Council of the European Union had authorized EU to enter into discussions about establishing multilateral investment code, and we could see there are many ongoing negotiations that had happened. At the same time, Council for the European Union also had stated that such a discussion for establishing multilateral investment code should happen under the auspices of UNCITRAL. And UNCITRAL since 2017 had established a working group 3, who are looking at reforms of ISDS. So EU had submitted 2 papers to UNCITRAL working group 3 in order to look at the possibility of establishing multilateral investment code. So now what's happening within the working group 3? There have been many negotiations. So establishing a permanent multilateral investment code has become one of the reform elements, and there are ongoing negotiation that is happening. So what we see here is, in the context of working group 3, they are discussing about establishing a committee that committee which will comprise of state representatives to oversee budget, governance and rules regarding multilateral investment code, as well as how the permanent judges have to be nominated. So they're again discussing about nominating judges by receiving nominations from the states with civil society input, or having an open call for applications. But whatever be the method, they're again thinking of having a selection panel in order to ensure the competence and the neutrality of the proposed judges. And again here in the context of working group 3, the duration of the judges, the tenure of the judges is also being discussed, probably 9 years or something, a long tenure in order and a full-time position in order to avoid conflict of interest. So the discussion in the context of working group 3 again revolves around how do we sort of balance the state's control with tribunals' independence, and then how to avoid politicization in appointments, how to ensure that there is sufficient diversity from the nominations. So the diversity in terms of geography and gender and legal system. So how do we ensure that these diversity go beyond regional quotas? Because in the context of appellate body, we saw an informal system of certain number of seats being reserved for certain regions. Like US had one, EU had one, and all of these, Asia had two. So that was an informal system. You won't find a record of this thing, but that is how it was practiced. So here also in the context of working group 3, they were looking at how do we ensure diversity beyond regional quotas. So that is one thing the discussion revolves around, and also the discussion revolves around taking advantage of the existing system, especially the enforcement regime under New York Convention and ICSID, and mostly the issues or the discussions revolve around these, how to ensure that expertise is balanced with diversity, how to should there be a mandatory appellate mechanism for all disputes and all treaties. All of these are being worked out. As of now, there is no conclusive or authoritative decision that has been taken in this context. So we'll have to wait and see whether multilateral investment court will become a reality or it will just die down, like ICSID appeals facility had died down just a year later. But we do see a stronger commitment on the part of EU, and there has been a success when it comes to appellate body of World Trade Organization that had contributed to a stable and a predictable framework. This is something I have already discussed in the previous lecture while talking about appellate mechanism also. So the MIC does have the potential for reforming the existing ISTS regime. It has a potential, but I'm not sure whether it has the support of the states. But EU has complete faith in the concept of having a multilateral investment court to resolve investment disputes. So with that, I conclude my 59th lecture, the second last lecture for this course. So in the next lecture, in the next video, we will be discussing about ISTS reforms and the environment. So that's going to be one last lecture for the course that will talk about how environmental principles could be reconciled within the field of international investment law using various things, especially 4 things: treaty reforms, procedural reforms, and standard of review reforms, compensation reforms. So these 4 things basically like a summary of what we've discussed in the previous lectures. So a quick summary and why there's a need to address environmental principles within the context of international investment law rather than looking at it from a domestic perspective or signing one more international environmental agreement or many more international environmental agreements which operates as a soft law framework. So that is what we're going to discuss in the next segment. Thank you.